Hey guys, what's going on? We are live for Financial Fitness Friday. I am here with my co-host Dave. Dave, what's going on, brother?
Jonathan, I'm good, brother. How are you? Good to see you.
Yeah, man. So we're gonna go and talk about all things credit, right? It's one of the most important pieces to the puzzle when you're trying to build your wealth, and I don't think anyone gets it right. And it just so happens we have one expert and one person that knows enough to be dangerous. Okay, so I'm gonna be asking the expert all things credit. So, Dave, can you explain what actually makes up the credit score and where people need to focus?
Yeah, man. There's five factors to a FICO score. We're not going to talk about Vantage. It's a whole different animal. Although everybody gets sucked into the whole Credit Karma ordeal, but there's five main factors, right? So the first one is payments, right? Payment history. Um, Guys, it's 35% of your credit score. So in other words, to keep it simple, pay your shit on time, right? It doesn't get any easier than that
Wait,
because number one, that go ahead.
no, go on.
Yeah. No, that's the controllable, right? Control your controllables. Make sure you pay your stuff on time, get it on auto pay, right? That's the first one. The second one is credit utilization. And sometimes this gets confusing for people because everybody thinks it's the entire picture. It's their mortgage, it's their auto loan, right? And their credit cards. But that number is based on revolving trade lines, right? Secured, unsecured credit cards, variable line of credit. That's 30% of your credit score, right? So if you have open balance, that's going to make your score go up and down. 10% is any new credit. So sometimes to build credit on that side too, it's to open new accounts, get approved for new accounts, typically credit card accounts, or if you're getting a car lease, keeping that flow going. You're not going to buy a house every 3 years or anything crazy like that. Another one is length of credit history. That's a big one too. So that's why it's very important not to close credit card accounts. So in other words, these aged accounts. So you have a credit card, even an auto loan, right? Like when you hit that 5-year mark, that payment history kind of coincides with payment history too, because you're having that time go along. Always keep those cards open because you're gaining 15% for its age. And then the mixture of credit was the last one. So there's three types of credit. You have mortgages, installment loans, and revolving trade lines. You have one, you're not going to get as much. You have all three, you'll get that full 10%.
Let me ask you a question on that. What are some tips and tricks for people to make sure that they're not missing payments? And if they have high utilization, is there anything they can do differently besides paying on the due date that can help them boost their scores up?
Yeah, man. So, wait, first question. Had a brain fart there.
That's all right. First question, simple. A lot of people make mistakes. I've seen it. It has happened to me once where, hey, statement bill came in. I got the yearly fee. It's not a card I use. I get dinged. What are some things that people can do to set up, like maybe auto payments and other things like that? Like what's an effective way to manage that so they always keep their credit in great standing?
Yeah, gotcha. Payments and then utilization. Gotcha. So first one, yeah, auto pay is a big one. I kind of know your love-hate relationship with auto pay, but it is a good one. Sometimes errors do happen. We'll keep it simple here, but auto pay, if in case something auto pay does happen, right? A lot of the apps now have notifications and reminders, right? So make sure you set your apps, Citi, Wells Fargo, American Express. Make sure you have notifications on for payment reminders. Because guess what? Even though you have it set on auto pay, a lot of them are still going to remind you anyway. So it's very important. You might want to go into the back office or dashboard of that particular account. Make sure it still says auto pay, right? Underneath your dashboard or your account for that due date and whatever that payment is. Or you can kind of go old school too. Set yourself a calendar or a reminder in your phone. There's other apps that you can help, but I think really instead of going all over the place, the main one is auto pay and make sure you have notifications on your apps. Every bank or every institution pretty much has an app today and notification.
Yeah. And let me ask you this question, because this is probably something that comes up a lot. What about the people that pay all their bills on time, but they're still in the low 600s? Usually, what does that tell you about it, and why is that happening to them? and how can they go about correcting that?
A lot of times is, and this is kind of to answer your second part to that question too, going about utilization. These, and I'm assuming you're going there, so these kind of coincide. Like, look, if they're paying their stuff on time, again, where I said that 30% mark of revolving line doesn't count towards your mortgage or some type of installment loan or a car note, right? So continue those paying on time habits. That's usually a revolving side. So usually what happens if you're paying your balance in full every single month, right? You're letting there's two dates to a credit card sheet or to a credit card statement. You have the closing date and then you have the due date. Most of the time the due date is 21 to 25 days after that statement closes, right? So if your due date is what's today, February 16th, right? Say your due date's today, pay that actually 5 days in advance. You know, if you're going to pay it off. Correct. So February 16th, pay it on the 11th because you'll get it to kind of, you might get it to report on time, you might not. But at the end of the day, if you consistently do that every month, right, that rolling month after that's going to consistently show a zero balance on the credit report.
It'll lower your utilization and boost your score.
Correct. Yes.
All right. There you go. Awesome. What are some of the biggest mistakes you see people make with credit?
Well, definitely spending habits. You know, that's always, and it's not their fault, but it is their fault. And it's in taking personal responsibility. Yeah, absolutely. Something we talk about, but in the general public, people that don't think like you and I, it's not their fault because that's what's kind of taught. You know, that's what's out there in society. We live in a buy now, pay later kind of society today. Hey, let's keep up with the Joneses. Hey, here's a $10,000 card, 0% for 12 months. Go have at it. You know, they're not telling you what happens after that 12 months. They're not telling you the trouble you could get in with compound interest working against you, right? So I think there's I think the biggest problem with credit overall, and it's kind of take the nice guy approach here, is that people really don't understand like how it works, at least on the credit card level, because that is the foundation of credit, right? If you have an auto loan and a mortgage, but no credit cards, your score is actually going to kind of be shitty because you're losing 30% of your credit score by not having credit cards. So it's kind of a win system, but also a fail system at the same time.
Got it. That's interesting. And talk us through your credit repair process. Like someone comes in, what do you do?
Well, two things. Number one, we educate them, right? It's very important because of, you know, what I just previously said, that lack of knowledge. I never want anybody, and we teach our team this, never want anybody to come in and not understand something, you know, and that knowledge or that education is based on their own picture. And we pretty much tell them out of that knowledge too, that the three main things that you can control, right? Or 2/2A, it's pay your stuff on time. And if you have credit card debt, make sure you get it paid down as much as possible. Those are the two main controllables that somebody can control. The other two things that coincide with that, number one, for free, right? We take a look at their whole credit picture. We tell them the good, the bad, and the ugly. On the positive side, we look at what they currently have or what they don't currently have. And then we put a positive game plan into place. So now if you have some open accounts, great. What can we control now with those accounts? If you are late, unfortunately, and I'm going to keep it real, right? A lot of times that's hard to get updated. But what you can do is start today and make consistent on-time payments. Just because a negative account's going to stay on there, which they will stay on there for 7 years, does not mean it's going to affect you for 7 years, right? So start those habits of paying on time right away and then get that utilization down. If you don't have anything to kind of start, there are tools that we have at our disposal to help you build credit, even if you have bad credit, right? Secured cards. We have access to ones that don't charge fees. Rent reporting is becoming a big one now. It gets treated like a mortgage trade line. And self-lenders are a big one. So you're kind of paying yourself for a loan to get reported as an installment loan. So that's 3 pieces of credit right there that you can add to your report. And also the authorized trade line ordeal. But, you know, a lot of people don't have access to that, but that's also something that we explain. And then on our end, we look at the negative side. What can we do with those negative items? Are they open? Are they closed? Is there a balance? How is that reporting? How is it reporting compared to the other two credit bureaus? What laws aren't being matched in consumer law and the Fair Credit Reporting Act? Can we get those items updated or removed? Do we need to get them all removed? No. The idea is to, with us, it's to reach the goal, because most of the time when you reach the goal, everything else is going to organically come up anyway with that whole scoring process. But that's what we do on our end. We look to get as many things updated and or in a positive stance as quickly as possible. We try not to keep anybody in longer than 6 months. We pretty much cut it off there. If we can't get luck with the bureaus or creditors, we'll file complaints with the CFPB or the FDCPA or even the Better Business Bureau. And if it gets really, really bad and the information is blatant, we'll send you to a consumer attorney, which a lot of times there's it's a civil matter. So a lot of times if there is a need, right, the bureaus or the creditors, they're going to have to pay a civil penalty. And just like in any civil case, lawyers aren't going to take money up front unless obviously they know they can win that case. So that's how we look at it.
Got it. And at what age do you think, or would you recommend parents start helping their kids build credit?
That's a weird question, man, because there's so many, different answers that I've seen or things that I've tested. I don't think you should start them too young, because I have, believe it or not, seen a case to where one time somebody got a letter for their 11 or 12-year-old kid that their social security number's been compromised. And keep this in mind, you legally can't get a credit report until you're 18 unless you have something like that happen. You have to go through these hoops, write a crazy notarized letter to the bureaus, being a minor, if something like that line happens. But my opinion on that is I would start, 15 or 16, right? You're 2 years away from turning 18. That's a pretty safe bet. You're not compromising anything to them or even with your own stuff if it gets compromised. And then, by the time they turn 18, they can generate a report. Then you can see the status. I mean, of their credit status. Perfect example is Brad. He did that for Natalie when she was 16, and right by the time she turned 18, we pulled her credit report. 18-year-old kid, man, 730 credit score right at 18.
Nice.
Yep.
All right. Well, guys, you guys heard it here. All right. We're going to try to get these even more tactical than they already are. So please do us a favor. Share this with someone that needs to hear it. Comment. If you guys have questions or anything you guys want us to go over, make sure, okay, that you drop them in there or reach out to us. We will cover it on either Financial Fitness Friday or Mindset Monday. Appreciate you guys. Have a good one, and keep crushing it.
Be great, y'all. Ding, 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 ding.